Hey Toronto Maple Leaf fans, Mark Fera here with the Blue Line. Curious to know what this is behind me and how it ties in with the greatest goal in Toronto Maple Leaf history? Let's do this. Yeah. Bill Barilko, at the age of 24 in 1951, would score the biggest goal in Toronto Maple Leaf history. Even after being told by his coach not to pinch in, the legendary Joe Primo was set to fine Barilko for $1,000 for pinching into the blue line. You weren't allowed to do that back then, and considering he only made $7,000 that season, you can imagine how much that would have affected his pay. However, the local hero would score the goal, coaches would decide not to fine him, he'd be carried off the ice on his shoulders, and not only be a local hero, but a national hero as well. And it's this plane behind me that ties in with this story for today. Bill would go home to Timmins after scoring that goal, spend time with family, make sure he was in shape for the following playoffs, and spend time with friends getting reacquainted. It wasn't until last minute that Bill was actually asked to go on a flying fishing trip with local dentist Henry Hudson. Henry had a local plane called the Fairchild, and he would go on local fishing trips and had someone going originally with him, but that person couldn't attend, and he invited Bill last minute to take place. Well, Bill's mom was dead set against it, and the reason why was she was very superstitious, as Bill's dad had died on a Friday, and she really didn't want him going and attending that because she just didn't have a good feeling about it. But Bill would go anyways, and he would not return. On Sunday, the family would get the call that Bill's plane hadn't returned, and mom's gut had that feeling. Well, Conn Smythe, at that time, who was a big military guy, created the largest search in Canadian military history. And in fact, it's actually still the greatest search in Canadian military history, but nothing would turn up. So the Maple Leafs would return to training camp at the end of 1951, the beginning of the 51-52 season, without their local hero, keeping the locker intact with the hopes that he would come home. So here's the Maple Leafs expected to win a bunch more Stanley Cups, and in fact, don't win another one until 1962. It's often known as what they called the Bill Barilko curse. Well, people didn't really know what had happened with him. As his parents were of Ukrainian descent, some thought that he might have secretly gone to coach the Russian national team. Others, understanding the gold smuggling situation coming out of Timmins, thought that perhaps maybe Dr. Henry Hudson and Bill, because keeping in mind dentists could get access to gold easily because they were used for fillings back in the day. So they thought maybe that the two of them had smuggled gold out and just not returned. Or the other theory might have been that they went on this flying fishing trip, they had caught so many fish, they put them in the pontoons and it weighted the plane down so much that it wouldn't be able to handle that weight on its way back. Well, in fact, when the plane would later be found, the ministry had actually taken an axe to the pontoon to have a look on the inside, and nothing was found. But let's get back on track. It wasn't until the Maple Leafs would win their next Stanley Cup in 1962, just weeks later, that local pilot Ron Boyd would be flying out just on a routine fly, and he would see a shiny object in the bush. Well, not having a proper GPS back in the time, the only thing he had was a roll of toilet paper, which he took and threw out on the plane to mark that spot. He would immediately call the ministry. They would go out the next day, and on June 7th, 1962, the Ministry of Natural Resources would, in fact, confirm that this plane behind me, the Fairchild, was that plane that carried Bill Barilko and Dr. Henry Hudson. So how did they identify them? Well, the rumor has it that they identified them by Bill's Toronto Maple Leaf team watch. And the skeletons, which were the remains, were actually still seatbelted in the plane. So no one really knows how the plane went down. There was no evidence of burn marks, so it could have potentially ran out of gas. The pilot, Henry Hudson, was classified as a bit of a crazy cowboy. He would often drive with a few too many, which was, again, socially acceptable back then. Not that it was the right thing to do. He was also known for flying under bridges and really known for flying low of gas. So probably, and the most likely cause is bad weather, lots of rain, and he ran out of gas. So the bodies would be recovered, brought back to Timmins for a proper funeral, and this plane wreckage would actually sit in the bush until 2011, when 16 brave souls from Timmins decided that they wanted to bring the plane back, not for money, not for fame, but to bring the mission and complete that mission. So they would bring it back home by going out in the bush and being dropped off literally roughly, up to my understanding, it was about an hour away from where the plane had landed, and they had to travel through, and it wasn't like a general, like a great walk in the park. They were walking through all kinds of mud and bogs and everything that were up to their waist. It was a struggle to get there, but the group would be determined to get in there, and they would pack everything up, lift it up, and this wreckage would return home and be placed in a sea can until it was brought back out just a short while ago. And the opportunity to place it here is where now everybody will be able to see it. So what is this, you ask? Well, here's the plane, along with the seat that Bill Barilko's body would lay in and Dr. Henry Hudson would lay in. And it sits here now along with the engines, the pontoons, everything is in one piece. We hope to keep this story alive. Why? Well, much like a Shakespeare story, unfortunately ends with a bad ending, but it is a story. One thing about the Toronto Maple Leafs is they may not have the most cups, but they definitely have some incredible stories about their franchise. And losing this young man at 24 years old, okay, winning 4 Stanley Cups in 5 years, his mom actually thought that he was being demoted when he left Hollywood. He was playing 2 levels below the NHL. So you had the Toronto Maple Leaf, Pittsburgh Hornets, and then you would have the Hollywood Wolves would be another one of the feeder teams to Pittsburgh. So Toronto would actually be calling down to see if they could get a defenseman from Pittsburgh, and they had Bill Barilko on his way up. He never even suited for Pittsburgh and jumped right into the Toronto Maple Leafs lineup and would become our great hero. In fact, most people didn't even know that story exists until the Tragically Hip did a song called the 50 Mission Cap. And if you look just over to my side here, you will in fact see the lyrics that were handwritten by Gord Downey and presented to Anne, Bill's sister, at Center Ice in 2001 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of that goal. On the other side of me, you'll notice the puck. This is the puck that the Donahue family out of Hamilton surprised everybody when the Hockey Hall of Fame, in fact, thought that they had the original puck. And this family came out just a few years ago and suggested, no, we've had the puck since 1951, and we actually were able to confirm it on many different fronts. In fact, the Hall of Fame, who, listen, worked on a handshake, had taken a puck back when the Hall of Fame had first opened back in the 60s, and were under the impression that they had the right puck, when in fact, that puck had stopped, the league had stopped using that puck in 1943, so it wasn't even classified as that puck. And it wasn't until we had a radio interview just a couple of years back that we had a gentleman who was actually the driver that took the Donahue family. His father was actually the driver that took the family down to the game and confirmed that this in fact was the puck, which has been sitting in the trophy since 1951. Now, curious to know about the other 300 pieces in this. We're going to get into that over time, and what we want to do is we want you Leaf fans to understand that we're going to create a show that's going to challenge you not only with the history, but lots of memorabilia, lots of interviews, a little bit of controversy, and we're going to try and do the best we can to bring you something that you're going to enjoy every week. If you enjoy this and you want to see more of it, please sign up to our YouTube channel at The Blue Line Official on YouTube, and as soon as we get to that 1,000 subscribers, we'll be able to go live, take some of your questions, and take this thing to the next level. Well, thanks guys for joining in for this short time that we've got right now. I really appreciate it. Mark Fera, The Blue Line. Yeah.